Hello, everyone. Nytmare here, and this is Whale FM's Fireside Chat with Artists. In this show, as you know, we talk about everything and anything art and crypto in the NFT scene with designers and creators alike, otherwise known as non-fungible tokens. And my guest today is Natural Warp, a visionary artist whose psychedelic artwork channels universal energies using ultra-chromatic vibrations and soul-inspired geometry as common language. AKA some next level stuff we're about to see right here, guys. Natural Warp, George, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, guys. What an introduction, mouthful, eh?
I really had to try to encapsulate so much in a very brief intro there, and I feel like I couldn't possibly do it justice. So I'm glad that we have you to be able to talk through some of it. I have to say, your body of work is impressive. You've put out so much stuff. So normally, I already know what I want to hop to from piece to piece as we talk. But please, if you have something specific you want me to reference or a specific way that I should be showing it to experience it visually, feel free to stop me and let me know, because I want to make sure we give the whale community the best possible representation of you.
Yeah, sure, we'll do that.
So first of all, let's just jump right in. Natural Warp. Why Natural Warp?
Natural Warp, I think I started around my 14 or 15 when I was playing games and making art, and I had to get some in an individuality, to name myself. That was the first time I think I started thinking about that. And why the warp? The warp, I think it's about the curving of things, the natural curving of things. Nothing goes straight, or nothing is perfect. Nothing is like the schedule has been written down. So it's always warped. It's always a little bit off.
Right.
So I think that's the thing about the warp. And the natural, yeah, that's also included in that same idea, that it's a natural warp of things. I'm like a copy of a human, and that human was a copy of a human, but we're not the same. So I think it's all about that.
And that's a lot of thought process into that for 14, in my opinion. A lot of us just put upper and lowercase letters and came up with something cool. So walk us back a little bit. I know you started even before then with art, and you have a very unique style. Can you tell us, your journey and your background from the beginning and how you progressed in art?
Well, from the beginning, at the age of 9, I started to follow weekly classes once a week or twice a week. At 14, I could start in a high school full-time focusing on art. I did some fine arts for a couple of years, and I did some graphic design for a couple of years. And I also had 1 year spatial arts in the academy, but I quitted that course. And then I started focusing on my own, just experimenting with so much techniques like sculpting, painting with oil and acrylic. I did photography, I did some airbrush, paintbrush. I made tons of deco for psytrance festivals. And then I started experimenting with 2D painting and 3D modeling with early programs like Bryce or some video or audio. I did a whole lot of experimenting, but without knowing what I was doing, not really a focus of what I was making, just about experimenting with the medium. And I think only after a whole long time, that's 2015, that's only 6 years ago, and I'm now 44, I started thinking about one direction to follow with my art. And that was the thing that was most precious in my life, the influence of psychedelic experiences. And from that moment on, that I decided I want to take this path and keep on focusing on that. I never stopped. And I think a year after these first, let's say, collages that I made in 2015, I started discovering the possibility to create 360-degree art, and that's still what I'm doing. I'm still refining what I can create with this technique that I discovered for the 360 art, and I can do with those results by mixing them together and putting in some VR sculpture techniques and mixing it all together. So that's a bit in a short, very short run how I got here.
Well, that's very cool. So if I understand correctly, you had a little bit of formal education in the beginning, and then the rest of this is self-taught?
Yeah. A lot. Actually, all the techniques that I'm using now are all self-taught. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And what drew you to the AR and VR stuff? Was there a particular experience that you had, or just it was a natural interest?
Well, I was at 2015 when I started to build the Natural Warp brand. I was on Facebook only. Before that, I didn't do any social media, so that was my first entry. Trying to come outwards with these collages that I did at the time, and Facebook, they had this 360 possibility to upload 360 photos. So I started experimenting with that, and I very quickly found myself in an area that I wanted to see this in VR because I didn't have equipment at that time. So a year later, I bought some VR equipment, and for the first time, I was able to stand inside my own creations, and that was so recognizable in comparison to the original input that I wanted to put in my art, like the psychedelic experience, like the 360 vision and the limitless, the boundlessness, and the infinity that you can create. So yeah, I got stuck there, and I kept on focusing on how to create best these seamless insert. How do you say it? I call them like healing cocoons. For me, those are healing cocoons, the 360 art that I make and the experience that I get from them. And yeah, from the moment I felt that from myself, I knew I wanted to share that with the rest of the world and get better in doing that.
Wow. And you touched on it right there, and I found it very interesting. You make this incredible VR art, and you use these psychedelic kind of thematics, but philosophically, you talk about like the experience being a medium for channeling energy, and for geometry being kind of like a binding common language among people for experiences. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? Because I found that super interesting.
Yeah, that goes way deep. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to explain that correctly, but if you go, I'm not really interested in the outer, how do you say, the outside world. I'm more interested in the inner world. That's kind of obvious, I think. And so many things like let's say habits that you have as a human being, or thought patterns, or everything that's structured around you as an input, like a baby and living with your parents, they all have this baked in patterns because their parents did things and their friends did things, and civilizations before us did things, and they're all baked in like, yeah, if you break it down to very simple geometric how do you say, connections with each other, like everything's connected with each other, but so complex that you can't really start explaining them one by one. But if you go to these art forms in the how do you say, in the Arabic culture, I forget the name, but they don't do figuratives. They only focus on geometry, like in these temples and such.
Right,
Well,
like the calligraphy art where they just mirror it, right?
yeah, it's a whole lot of kaleidoscopic mathematics inside a very simple base geometry, platonics, and only like the square and the triangle and the hexagon, and that's it. And that's how we are on the inside. That's how we are interlinked with everything. And you can, for example, if you go into I'm jumping from this to that. If you go into family structures, going way back in your lineage, or how you say that,
Yep, that's right.
the family structures, then you can also follow these same geometric shapes in which you can find why you are doing things in the now, connected to many generations back, or even, yeah, I don't know, it's very hard to explain. That's, I think, why the visual language is a little bit better for me. For
You
the
know,
thing that you're showing now, like the it's like an icosahedron and a dodecahedron mixed with each other. That's a pentakis dodecahedron. That's the structure that I'm using, and it's like a fluid geometry. Everything's moving all the time, and it's even mirrored from each other. It has waves, like it's pulsing all the time. But that's how I see it. That's how life is happening around us and inside us, and you can use this geometry in so many things. Yeah, that's the way out how I see things. It's hard to explain.
it's funny that you say you're not certain if you can talk to it, because really you say it very eloquently, better than I could, I think, honestly. It's interesting how you really focus on how art can influence the state of mind and all of those. You talk about our lineage, the subliminal energies and pre-existing things that are already there, and without knowing it, all these things we're absorbing, right? Like you talk about the absorption of art and how that can kind of affect your state of mind and your state of body. So knowing that that's the intention behind your work, in addition to being just incredibly impressive from a technical standpoint and just looking awesome, is just next level. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it as we're talking, so I'm glad that we have you here for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me, and I'm well honored to do this. Yeah.
So with all of that stuff in mind, when you're creating, do you set out with purpose when you're making this stuff? Like, what's the creative process for you?
Feeling while I'm going, because I most of the time don't have predetermined results set in my mind. I always go either, for example, the top 5 that, if you go back one page on that one, the top 5 that you're seeing there are all collaborations with artists, with Untitled XYZ, with Love Visuals, with Madolf, with Reddy Deo, and also with James Fox. Those are 360s in collab with those artists, and they just gave me one of their artworks, and I used that as an input to my 360 degree workflow, and then I see what comes with the image. What feeling do I get? Which light do I feel has to pour out of that 360? Suppose you're inside of it. Most of the time for me it's like healing or learning energies, but sometimes it's way beyond anything I can give a name to. I'd say click on one, maybe the middle one, the Madolf one. For me, that was if you zoom in on one of those, for me this is a next level piece. I really set a bar higher than I was able to do before, and it's with the input of one artist, absolutely great input, obviously, but the result that I was getting, I must say I don't go into VR before the piece is done. Most of the time I have the feeling, okay, now it's ready, and then for the first time I step inside, and most of the time I blow my own mind.
Right. Yeah. So I noticed that the work looks a little different when I look at the preview versus when I'm in here and zoomed in. Is that because the preview is just a small portion of it, or I have to do something here to have
you can click and slide your mouse to the left or to the right. No? If you go down.
There's a slider, okay.
No. You're looking at the wallpaper, I think. Maybe if you scroll down, there will appear, that's probably, yeah, that's an interactive one. You can click and slide and zoom in and zoom out, and that's like the 360 sphere without you standing inside of it in VR. Because in
Wow.
VR, it's absolutely that's absolutely mind blowing.
Right. Yeah. No, I knew there was more to this experience than I could. So thank you for walking me through that. That's incredible. So you're making this artwork and you're very interested in AR and VR. How did you come to the crypto art space and NFTs?
Well, that's linked to the VR part. I was in March 2020. I was and completely broke, and I saw all my possibilities to gain a little bit of financial surplus with the events and the exhibitions that I was working towards fall down with the COVID pandemic. I was surfing on the internet and I was looking not specifically for something, but I bumped into Somnium Space and I saw it was a VR world. I also read it was built on the blockchain, but I didn't know what that meant because the only thing I knew about blockchain was Bitcoin and Ethereum. I knew of their existence, but that was it. And then I downloaded the software. I booted my VR gear and stepped inside. And from the moment I stepped inside, I felt like I was walking in like an empty festival ground with so much spaces ready to be shops or dance floors or this or that, because I was used to in the physical life I was used to come a couple of weeks early before the festival starts and then build the deco on the side and then go along with the festival. That's how it felt when I was entering Somnium Space. And I think I immediately started skirmishing on the open sea, which their link had on their the website. And I started bidding on all these parcels. But yeah, I only had, I think, $100. So I think was 0.7 ETH at that time. And I was making so low bids that the CEO of Somnium Space, Arthur, he saw me doing that, and he talked to me like, "Hey, yo, you're never gonna get these land for so low prices. Maybe." And he checked. I think He checked my artwork statuses on other social media platforms, and I think he was interested, and he just proposed to me, why don't I rent out a parcel to you so that you can do your thing. I talked about him, what my vision was. What I immediately saw when I entered this world was like many different places where I could put these 360 spheres that you're now browsing into, that I was able to put these 360 spheres around and that people could walk into them just on site. And I think Arthur at that point directly believed in me, and he rented me a parcel. I built myself a museum, showed off a couple of my pieces that I minted, I think at that time on Rarible and Maker's Place. And then I sold one piece, and that got me going. That was my that was the start, and I just never stopped expanding into the other platforms, experimenting with platforms. And yeah, I kept being focused on Somnium Space because I was, of course, looking into get my 360 out there. So the best way to experience it is in VR. So that's what I'm still doing now.
Very cool. So it was really your interest in the VR that brought you to Somnium Space and then into the world of NFTs.
Yeah, like that.
And how's the reception been to your museum and also the other exhibits that you put up there?
Yeah, like you were showing now, June 5th, 2000. That was a poster. If you scroll up, we have this the first group exhibition that I made, because the first exhibition was a solo exhibition for my own work, and then I started feeling lonely kind of immediately. So I invited, and I also wanted to make connections, of course. So I invited many artists that I saw were active in the crypto space on crypto Twitter, and I invited them if they were interested in having their art shown in this group exhibition. And like you can see on the poster, it's two buildings. So the opening of the group exhibition was 2 medium parcels, which I've built these museums on. And I think we had around, 15 or 20 different artists. And that was my first appearance live in the VR with an event. And I think from that moment on, most of the events that I tried to make successful, most of the participants have been positively about it. Yeah.
Awesome. And I see that you've done some work with Terra Virtua as well.
Yeah. Recently.
Very cool. So you've seen what the capabilities are for AR and VR now, with the platforms and what they provide. What do you think the future holds for new applications and new augmentations to crypto art and NFTs?
Well, it's a bit like with the things you're showing now, and yeah, this one, the known origin. From the moment I got into the crypto space and got the feeling that something was missing, of course, I couldn't yet mint 360-degree art on the blockchain. So I started asking all these platforms, like, hey, are you not interested in making it so that we as an artist can upload the 360? And they were all interested, but none of them took real action. And a couple of months ago, the guys from No Origin told me, hey man, let's go for it. Let's make this work. And we did some testing, and with Somnium Space also. And now everybody can upload the 360-degree artwork on Known Origin and have it interactively navigatable like you see on the website now. So I think for this part, 360 video will probably be next. Okay, this is a little bit problematic because of the high resolution and the high file size, but I assume other platforms will follow this path, that once the 360 NFT start selling, that will be implemented in different platforms. And of course the AR, like Terra Virtua is doing now, I hope this will also spread to other platforms, that they offer either a baked-in AR app in their platform, or link it with an outside service. I don't know.
Right. I think Whale Shark has shown us some Terra Virtua things he scooped up, where I think he's using his phone and it projects the AR. It projects the art into his real life space, so it looks as if
that's what
whatever.
Terra Virtua does. Yeah.
Right. So you have some pieces that do that as well. For example, a sphere that would be moving in my bedroom.
I asked them to check if they indeed can already do the 3D and the 360, but they told me not yet. It probably will come in the future, but for now, we as artists cannot upload 3D items yet.
Well, do you see what I mean? You're even pushing the platforms, right? I'm taking one of the most progressive NFT platforms, and they're not ready for the stuff that you're looking to do yet. So you are a boundary pusher, and you're someone that's definitely pushing the space forward. So that's why I wanted to talk to you when I came across your art.
Nice.
And I was on Twitter and said, "Wow, this is awesome stuff." So I noticed a lot of your stuff. You have limited editions, one of one, one of two, or whatever, but you like to experiment and do a lot of work. And there's a lot of discussion in the NFT space on scarcity and what's the right model. I think your perspective would be interesting, because obviously you're doing a lot of experimentation, right? So you want to get a lot of stuff out there to share, number one, but also to push the boundaries and see what the platforms can do and what the people will be interested in. So what are your thoughts on scarcity in the NFT space?
Well, I had no idea before I entered the space, and I pretty soon noticed there were different viewpoints on this. And because the first thing I did, I think when I came here, on Rarible I posted a couple of pieces, also some blotter art. On Maker's Place I didn't do so much in the beginning, and also on Minbase. And I think I immediately minted a whole series of 360 animations on Minbase. And right after I did that, I got a reply from Super Rare, in which they told me I was rejected from Super Rare because they didn't like the fact that I already had so much out there on other platforms. And maybe that's the reason why I'm still not on Super Rare, but I don't care. I have so many other platforms that I'm focusing on.
Right.
But I understood, of course, what they were saying about the scarcity and why it was for them better, for example, to have only a couple of pieces on the platform to be interesting for collectors that are looking for 1/1 items. But it didn't feel so right, just emotionally or about thinking about it, just the feeling. It didn't feel so right to limit myself in relation to bringing things out there. So yeah, that's why I kept experimenting and just checking out different platforms. And most of the time, in the beginning, most of the time I didn't know what I was doing where. But after a while, I just started to write out a strategy, what I was going to do on Minbase, what I was going to do on Maker's Place, which kind of things I would be focusing on in known origin. And yeah, this is still expanding now. That, for example, all my blotter art in the future will probably be found on Rarible. All my 360, for now, for sure, it will be on my known origin. Some experimental things I'm doing on OpenSea, like series. I don't know. I just find it interesting for myself to open up many different paths and not only stick to one. I've never been doing that in my life, so why would I start doing that now?
Yeah, and I think I could speak for everybody in saying we're glad that you made that decision because the stuff you're doing is just incredible, and we need to see how you continue to push the boundaries and also, influence our mind state and our body subliminally, right? So we need more of that, not less. So glad that there's a lot out there for us to check out and consume.
Yeah,
And speaking of that, I saw that you did something with async as well, right? So
yeah.
again, on the forefront of looking at what's the technological boundaries of the space and how we can push it. So
Yeah.
how is it working with async?
Well, very, very easy. In fact, the first thing I did was a night and day piece. That was for me to get known with the platform. Just a piece that changes by day and changes by night in another state. And then I already had this idea of multiple layered items, but at that time you still had to contact the team, and they were quite busy with other artists. They didn't have a ready yet upload and go feature at that time. So I just put that aside because I had so many other ideas as well for other platforms. So I just put it aside. And from the moment Async told the community that they had a ready to go multi-layer setup, then I prepared my piece, and yeah, here it is. It's a 3-layer piece. Each layer has 6 states, so in the end you have 216 possible outcomes. And the piece is about like a very simplified breakdown of life, what's happening in the now. When you wake up, you have you come from this very abstract world, and you're thrown in this world. So when you wake up, you have like, okay, I'm in this dimension. Okay, what's gonna happen today? You immediately start filling your head with things like what am I going to do, or who am I, or all these things, abstract sometimes very rational. And this piece is about how the day looks. Every day looks different. In fact, every day looks the same because you're in your own house, you're in your own body, you have the same kind of mental structures all the time. But every day looks so different when you do slight combinations of each, and that's what this piece is all about.
I love it. I love the connection that you make here beyond just the colors and the construction and the execution of the art, the connection to everyday life and our emotions and our mind state.
Yeah.
So what's next? I mean, you're always pushing the boundaries. You're at the forefront of these platforms before they are ready. Do you have any big projects that are in the works or significant collaborations that you could give us a little teaser on?
Well, we already saw a teaser on the 360 collaborations on the art station, because I plan on dropping a big portion of my 360. It's an art station. I plan on dropping on Known Origin a big portion of this collection that you're seeing. But before I drop these collaborations, I want to warm up a little bit more the collectors that didn't really start yet to be interested in 360 art. I think I sold 3 for now. There are a couple out there. I don't say they have to be sold first, but I'm gonna prepare probably in a month of now a big drop of solo 360 pieces, and then after that one I will drop a couple of 1-1 NFT artist collabs in a 360 shape on No Origin. And I'm also working on one piece that has 12 artists inside this 360.
Wow.
And that will drop after that solo artist collab in Known Origin.
Very cool.
So that will be coming up. And then, like you probably have seen the events that I'm doing in Somnium Space. There's a group exhibition that's going to reopen. After that will be a solo artist that just entered the NFT space. But I thought his art was so cool that I have to build a solo exhibition for him. So that will be opening after that. And I don't know if you know, but last year I did a social token treasure hunt on Somnium Space.
I did. I actually had some questions for you on Warp, if that's what you're referencing specifically.
Yeah, I'm planning to do another. I hope I get a good reception at the role team, and also at all the issuers that want to get out there. So that's very cool. And I did see that, like we said in the beginning, you have your hands in so many different things that are progressive and awesome. So it's great to be able to get your direction a little bit when we're trying to talk through it. Real quick about the exhibitions that you have coming up. I saw both the one where you're trying to highlight someone new, which is, great. I love that people that are established or establishing themselves will reach out a hand and help new people in the space. And then also, I did see the group exhibition, the big one. Did you put that together? Because there were some heavy hitters involved in that. A small portion was still there since last year.
Okay.
Then I bought a couple of affordable pieces for myself. If you say the heavy hitters like Pranksy, and I just got a couple affordable pieces from them. I didn't even get a response if they can attend the event or not, because they're probably very busy and get a lot of these requests. But most of the artists in there know that they're in there. Some send their pieces willingly to me. Other ones I have bought for myself. So it's a little bit of a mix of well-known people, some in the middle, and some at the very early stage of entering the crypto space. So I like to mix this up a bit, that it's not focused on only one group of those people.
Right. Well, like we said, being able to leverage people that are established to try to help people that are trying to make it. I mean, that's what it should be all about. And for the most part, the NFT space is very collaborative. You know, it's a community where there's a lot of people, for the most part, working together. So it's great to see, you know, you follow that ethos a bit. And in that vein, I wanted to ask you, you have such a huge body of work, and for people that are interested, we'll drop the links as well. But if you go to the link tree here, which normally has, you know, 5, several, maybe 10, we're talking about platform after opportunity to see all kinds of mediums, from video to prints to NFTs. Super impressive. But as someone who's been doing this for a long time and also has been involved in the crypto space for a while now, what would be your advice for new artists coming into the space that are trying to, you know, get their footing and get some recognition in the scene?
Well, I think certainly now, because there are so many platforms, I think the best is to don't rush in too fast, because that's very tempting. Especially, it doesn't even matter if you have a lot of work or if you don't have a lot of work. I think most of the time people want to rush in as soon as possible because they need some money to get started. I'd say don't. Please investigate a little bit on the different ups and downsides from all the different platforms, and don't, for example, well, I think there are two strategies. I'd say don't, for example, put your best art mint it for the first time, because in fact you don't know what you're doing, but some do know, and for them maybe it's best to start with their best pieces or one of their best pieces as a genesis. I think I have two opinions about that. But yeah, investigate, and certainly don't try to make too much mistakes that you'd have to burn a lot of things. Just read your description and your titles and all these things, and just check everything until you're tired of checking it, because you're certain everything's perfect.
Right. You're right. A lot of people try to jump in without much thought just because they don't want to, you know, get left behind. And in turn, that affects, you know, the perception of them and what their opportunities are going forward. But, you know, there's no, like you said, there's no one shoe that fits everybody. So it really depends, you know, on what works best for each individual artist. But for the space itself, you know, you've talked about some of the roadblocks and some of the opportunities that you've had as you've kind of worked your way up to where you are now. What are some things that you think the crypto art space in general can improve on or optimize more?
Well, yeah, at this point, I'd say the most important thing that has to be developed, and probably is already in development, is merging all these different chains. I think Mintbase already is doing this, building a bridge between Ethereum and Near. But if you say, for example, Matic or Flow or EOS or Wax and all these different chains that you can tokenize on, we need, I think, and a multi-chain wallet as soon as possible, and of course bridges for doing the swapping and the transferring, but also platforms like Somnium Space and CryptoVoxels and Decentraland, and like let's say the Collectors Hub, and every platform that's can be used as a gallery to show off these NFTs. They also have to implement these multi-chain wallets, and so that we can operate from different spaces and not be limited inside a space, that these things are not separated.
Right. I do know that there is work, because there's a lot of interest, obviously, with Layer 2, but with the success of some of these other platforms that are becoming very important to the space, being able to bridge them is a priority for a lot of the macro parties, right, that are interested in having marketplaces and having ecosystems. So I think you're right that is something that they're actively looking at, but the sooner the better, right?
Yeah.
Gas is a prohibitive thing for artists as well as for collectors in some cases, and we don't want any barriers to entry on either side.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned OpenSea. I had a little trouble navigating because you have many accounts, but checking out your Rarible, I see that you have plenty that you've collected yourself as well. Do you have a single favorite NFT of yours that you own that you've picked up?
It's not one that I picked up. Of course, it's I got this question before, so I could prepare. Otherwise, I
Oh,
would
okay.
be here without an answer
It's a
because I have
tough
so
one.
much where I'm emotionally attached to. But while skirmishing through all these pieces, I think because ELO projects I have been following for a long time before I was into the crypto space, and when he arrived again, because he was there, he was here before in 2017, I think. But when he arrived again, I was able to contact him, and he was interested in being in a group exhibition. And one of his pieces, a couple of his pieces are now in a group exhibition, and also he has a bunch in a solo exhibition. But there's one, it's called Pusha. It's by ELO Projects, and it's hanging in this Art Lounge 1. Yeah, you're probably gonna see it when you scroll down. It's been transferred to me a couple months ago. Yeah, those are ELO, and a little bit down probably you'll find Pusha. Yeah, it's just one. ELO project is just one of the visionary artists that I have been following for a while, and he's so deep in his pieces. Yeah, I can stare at it for hours.
I'm a little bit of trouble finding it here. Should I?
Yeah. You're probably not even there, but I'm not always.
How would you spell that?
Puscha. Pusha.
We'll try to bring that up, but
Yeah.
as an aside, I am a fan of ELO myself. I think I actually reached out to him in email, see if we can get him on here as well, just because. Oh, you know what? It probably wasn't for sale. I was looking at what was for sale. If you love it, and revere it, yeah, it's not going to be on there, right? Okay, I'm having difficulty finding it, but ELO is an amazing artist, and I can see why that would have the pull for you as well. We'll try to bring that up and share that after the fact. But while I still got you, I did want to talk to you about Warp.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people are interested in NFTs right now, and NFT has hit the mainstream, obviously. There's a lot of attention and a lot of people that haven't been active in the space trying to get in just because it's so viable and newsworthy, and obviously, the monetary aspect as well. But people are saying that social tokens is next, and social tokens is really something that has been bubbling for some time, despite people just becoming aware of it. And I see that you actually launched yours in the summer of 2020.
Yeah, I was inspired, I think, for example, by Skinny, by Connie Digital, and by Rare Designer, just to name a couple. And I saw that those guys were having these social tokens out there and sold their art for their tokens. Well, that made me think, because I thought, yeah, that's gonna not gonna bring you money. But yeah, I didn't know how everything worked, and I didn't know why people would be doing that. So I started thinking, why could this be a positive thing for yourself and for your brand? Selling your art for a token you made for yourself, and in the beginning has no value at all. So it didn't took me so long to get that. For example, when I sell on Shopify or on Etsy a poster or postcards or blotter art, I always give people something extra, like a sticker or So just a couple of small things on top of it. So I directly made the link with these social tokens, that the social coins, that you could build value on this coin, and meanwhile, before even it has the value, start rewarding all your fans and followers and collectors with this coin, while building the whole community at the same time. So that's what when I started to think how I would do it. And yeah, of course, dropping some of these coins for all the people I just mentioned, and building a way to like you're showing now, to for people to buy some NFTs that drop a big amount of these coins, a little bit like a pre-sale, I think. And then, of course, the idea is to go into liquidity when I get to that, probably at the end of this year. And the idea is to have some NFTs out there, to have some source fronts out there that are exclusively purchasable with this coin, but also to implement it, for example, in a physical shop, so that people can buy a certain amount of percentage of discount on physical items, or even buy, like I think on my roll, you can see that you can buy a pack of postcards and stickers. It's like a physical pack of pieces for Warp. I don't
trying to find the roll link here.
No, I don't think it's in there.
Okay.
Something I forgot. I'm gonna write that down.
There you go. So people can tie in and get discounts on physical things as well with the social token.
Yeah, that will be the idea. For now, they can only buy digital pieces and that one physical postcard sticker pack set on the roll wallet. But yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, and I try to build in some mechanics like you were showing. If you buy these warped Ethereum diamonds and you buy a whole set, then you don't even have to trade them. You can keep them, but if you can present a whole set in your wallet, then you get a piece at my known origin for the same amount of the value I told it was. I think I've out there somewhere what the values are per series or per sets.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with this because really you were, among the people at the forefront, right? You saw this prior to the influx right now, where a lot of people are looking to launch social tokens, and part of the experimentation, because when Skeeny and Connie and you and people had launched, it was really a lot of experimentation to figure how are we going to drive value, right? This is worth zero right now. How do we leverage this for us to be positive for our ecosystem, but forget monetarily to incentivize people to be more engaged. And so thank you for being part of that experimentation. And I'm sure Warp is going to be a significant player going forward with all of the different ideas that you've absorbed. And I also couldn't help but notice, of course, that in the vault, in the whale vault, we have this piece.
Yeah. I was there when the whale was launched on the Discord. It was an amazing show. So yeah, I was inspired. Yeah,
nice. So you probably have that maiden journey tag, and I do not. I'm jealous already. But speaking of social tokens, I could be mistaken, but I thought I actually saw that you even put up a collection for sale for Mork. Was that correct?
Yeah. Okay. It's not. That collection was set for sale on very different coins. I think even 10 different coins that you could decide to pay with. Yeah, obviously people take the one that is the least expensive.
Right.
But that's part of the experimentation.
Interesting, because we host the Hackatow community here as well, so it was just cool to see that support cross social tokens, right? You have your own, and here you are also supporting the viability of another, which makes sense, right? Because
Yeah.
a rising tide will lift all boats, and
Yeah.
social tokens certainly have a bright future. I wanted to make sure I took a look at a couple of pieces in particular um, that we had highlighted prior to talking. Is this one of the newer pieces you had mentioned that you wanted to discuss?
On the right bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, all the other ones in this blockchain art exchange websites are of the same technique, but this one is my latest, and it's yeah, for me it pops out because for me I hit another level again on this. It started as a simple collage thing with the first one in the series, and this is a mix of I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different 360-degree artworks, and I render different shoots inside these 360 spheres, and then I start collaging different pieces on top of each other, and adding some details and some depth, and yeah, that's the result.
That's an incredible amount of detail. Just looking at the flat piece itself, I can't imagine this in a different form.
Yeah, my 360s, nobody has ever seen them in full resolution, not even I, because in Photoshop when I make them they are 24K, and the biggest resolution that you can show in a VR headset is 8K. Also, software-wise, there's no app that I know of in VR that can show something bigger than 8K.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a ton of detail if you zoom in, and it won't get blurry because it's made in 24K.
I think the site's trying to prevent me from blowing up my computer because it won't let me zoom in any further than this. And now I think about it, at the onset, I had a bunch of tabs open with your artwork, and we heard some clicking prior to going live. That was probably my computer saying, "This is really pushing the limits here." I wanted to chill out. Likewise, you had this piece over here on Foundation. Did you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, it also started in the same way as the previous one, like a collage of 360 elements. But with this one, I at the end, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 different 360s were used in here. But at the end, it felt really flat, and in fact, I didn't know where I was going next because it felt like a complete failure. And then at the end, I inserted these last circles that you see in the middle. There's like a whole render of a 360 pushed in this circular shape, and when I experimented with that, it gave me so much extra depth that I felt this would be the perfect piece to go on Foundation, because I wanted to start with a mind-blowing piece in Foundation. And for me personally, the fact that I was so stuck right before the end, let's say 10% wasn't finished and the other 90% was finished, and I felt like, okay, I'm gonna have to start another one because this is crap. And then I added the last 10%, and I blew my own mind, and I said, yeah, this is gonna have to go on Foundation.
Awesome. I'm just staring at this statically, and I feel like I'm sensing some motion because of the layers and the way this is put together. So that's really incredible stuff. If people want to stay, on top of your releases, obviously we'll give them your socials, your amazingly thorough link tree, as well as your Twitter. But is there a particular platform that people should be watching for what's coming up next from Natural Warp?
Well, my link to Twitter is kind of direct, so most of the time on Twitter is the first to know. And then I have my own Discord server, so that's where I post everything as well, of course. You can stay up to date on the events on my Discord server in relation to the social token treasure hunt or the events in Somnium Space or my evolutions with the 360 collabs. Everything's on there, so I think that's a nice one. If you can go there, and yeah, besides that, for me, the most value for now is the 360 artwork. So known origin, that's where I'll be dropping all those. And if you want to see them before they drop as an NFT, you can go to the ArtStation one.
Awesome. I'm sure a lot of people will be heading over to your Discord. You know that I had shown up there as well.
Yeah.
I'll be hanging out and trying to get my hands on some warp before it goes parabolic and everybody's trying to scoop it. So we will see you on that Discord as well. And Natural Warp, George, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I just want to comb the chat real quick because I know we had some questions from our audience. So while we still got you, wanted to make sure we can cover off on some of those.
Yeah, perfect.
Someone asked, do you create one side and then mirror it, or do you create all sides simultaneously?
My input often starts, for example, in VR sculpting, and then I have like a whole image where I only take an interesting part, and then I start mirroring that. But I also all the time work in different layers, so I have many of those how do you say, pre-made triangles or pre-made setups that will be mirrored afterwards in different layers, and then I mix those up because I don't want everything to be the same. If you mirror, it's quite kind of dull. So I'm start to mix up all these layers so that there's a lot of variation inside. This chill zone is not so variated. It's more made to be very chilly if you're inside. But most of the work that I'm making now is reaching for the limit in complexity. So the first pieces now on known origin, they're kind of simplex in relation to the newer work that I'm putting out, because I want to drop them chronologically on known origin.
Yeah, you gotta warm us up. This is already blowing us mind. So
yeah, I'm warming up. Yeah, I'm warming up.
Someone asked which metaverse space is best for viewing your work.
Definitely Somnium Space.
Somnium Space. Okay. Yeah. And you're pushing the boundaries on the others, so hopefully they can catch up pretty quick. There was a couple others here as well. Someone asked, do you have any enhancement substances that you take when you try to make some of this psychedelic art?
Yeah, I expect such a question. I am definitely inspired by them, by those experiences, but creation-wise, well, for me that doesn't really work, because the motoric influence it has, okay, the mind expanding, but it's when these experiences come to you, they are imprinted no matter what, and you can always go back to them. And I think in a creation process, that's what you always do without knowing it, subconsciously. And I don't need to be under influence to make things. That would be counterproductive at all.
Right.
It's so confusing from going inside the goggles to the screen and zooming in and out all the time in these very high resolution things, making mistakes for me in this 360 workflow that I have by 1 pixel. That's a huge problem in the future, because I have to clean it all up. So I really have to stay with my mind on top. And yeah, in a 24K image, 1 pixel for me wrong is problematic.
Right, I can only imagine.
Yeah, because you mirror it all the time and you take it with you all the time. So I really started to be very clear-headed and very perfectionistic in doing all these mirroring things.
Right. I think we'll leave it at that so we don't incriminate anyone for any possible reason. Natural Warp, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure. I'm going to have a lot more questions for you on your Discord. We will drop your socials and have everyone follow you, and as well, hopefully join us over on the Discord also. Hands off the Warp, guys. It's mine. And we look forward to what's coming next from you as you continue to push boundaries.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Ciao, ciao.